If you find that you're struggling with distance, this exercise could be the key to allowing you to actually use your natural levers, to using the wrists and the weight of the club, because you've probably been trying to control the club so much, it's probably interfered with the fluidity of the movement. So that natural flowing action can never actually really be achieved because of this tensioning and this deliberate positioning of the club. It could even be that just by trying to keep the swing wide and the left arm straight and keep the width, just like you see all the pros do, that might be stopping you from actually swinging the golf club in the most natural way. And it could be at the heart of all your problems, because this is something I see so often. In an effort to control it and get the club pointing in the right direction or perceived right direction, cocking the wrists 90 degrees, pointing the club down at the target line, keeping the width, turn, feel the tension through the core, build up that resistance. By doing this, most of us don't even possess this level of athleticism. And if we don't have this tall level of sequencing from the ground up to actually respond with, the first movement with all this tension, as soon as we rotate, is this. And now we've got a golf club swinging across the body on a steep downward path, and we've got a whole host of issues that we never even perceived we'd have to contend with. We've got to somehow now strike the ball, add loft, control the face, get speed. It's completely unnatural. Whereas if we held this like a baseball bat and swung it around the body, we'd allow all these things to happen naturally. So if we take the centre of rotation of the swinging action of the arms, which is here through the middle of the shoulders, by having the centre of mass behind us for as long as possible, we're just accumulating momentum and letting it go. And the club head is swinging out away from us. Natural path for a draw, for a natural free rotation of the club. So we can feel the rotation of the club. It's opening up all these doors for us to experience these motions, and then we can start to regulate them, but we've got to feel them first. We've got to create the opportunity to use them or for them to happen, and then we can recognise how we use them and then regulate them. So having a club that's swinging away allows us to rotate the face, and now we can feel that rotation, and we can start to see the draw shape, and we can start to relate the shape and the ball flight, if you like, the start line to the release that we're feeling here. And that's all been allowed to happen just because we're allowing the club to move around the pivot of the body in a more natural, efficient way. And we do that automatically just by swishing the club around the body. But put a ball there, things start to change because of all the preconceived ideas or concepts of how we should swing. And as soon as we start to go for speed, the body's subconsciously going to its natural power source at this moment in time, and this is creating these probably unwanted and unnecessary movements, but we've created these issues. We're self-sabotaging, and we've got to short that circuit. We've got to completely flip that around so that instead of the body being on a recovery mission, we're actually allowing ourselves to use our athletic potential. And we all possess the ability to move. We've all got a movement skill set. We've got to find our way of using it the best way. And just by holding the club and swinging it around the body and swishing the club, you're actually tapping into that already to a level. But what most of us actually fear in a golf swing is the club moving towards us. It's something that unavoidably happens in our swing, in the follow through. And even some of us are fearful of this, and we hold the club under tension, probably never really letting the club go. Even just letting the club swing over your shoulder might feel a little bit uncomfortable because you've always had to grip it with such tension in order to feel like you're controlling it. That's how you've recognised control, with tension. But once we let this golf club swing and recognise how this thing actually moves towards us in order to accelerate it away from us, we've got to let this swing towards, i.e. move closer to the body. And then, as a natural reaction, it will release. The swing radius, if you like, the radius of the swing arc of the club head is changing. It's actually wide to narrow to wide, and then narrow again. We've got to allow this natural course of events to take place, and it's this exercise that's going to help you. It's the jackknife. We've got to let these levers jackknife without losing our grip, without losing control, without obviously hurting or injuring ourselves. We've got to allow this to jackknife. We are not controlling this and holding it at 90 degrees and then starting to turn back because there's too much inertia. This is all too rigid, and now it's all going to break down as we want to create speed, and then we end up looking like this through impact. And we get all those things we're trying to avoid. What we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite. We're going to swing the club freely, but we're going to use our lead arm. And just let the club rotate so it's open and closed. And now, as I swing back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to feel the club get thrown away, so it's wide, but then I'm going to let the club move back towards me. I'm going to allow it to jackknife. So if you imagine those big articulated lorries, and when they slam on the brakes and the trailers behind start to overtake, you get that jackknife effect. That's what's happening with the levers in the golf swing. Here, there's a jackknife, and then your body can start to react and push and rotate, and the rotation of the body releases the jackknife. And through impact, with the ball being struck before the club reaches the low point, you get these kind of things starting to happen that people associate with a very kind of desirable impact. And ultimately, we're using the club the way it's been designed, striking it on the way down with the de-lofted face, improving our ball speed, less spin, more compression, all these things that we're chasing. But we need the jackknife. So this jackknife exercise is absolute key to feeling the freewheeling lever action that loads the actual joints and allows us to react. We can even start to bring in a step exercise, and for this we'd bring in the lead side. With the feet together, what we do is we swing the club back and forth, and as I start to throw the club back, I'm going to take a step to my lead side. Just a small step, and I'm going to drop. I'm going to load into the floor. And I've allowed this just to react. Not trying to keep this straight, because this club will keep the left arm pretty straight naturally for you. It's when there's too much resistance and the swing's too slow, you've got to start trying to control this arm. But as soon as this happens, it's going to naturally extend your left arm. So once you start releasing the club back and letting it go, it does it for you. All these things that you see as being teachable are actually just natural movements that happen as a reaction to efficient motion. If you're watching and you're well versed in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the drop and pop, we're dropping into the lead side. This is the number 3. This is the 1 and 2. 1 forward, 2 back, 3. And we're dropping into the lead side. The low point of our golf swing now, which is below the lead shoulder, is well under the ground, well forward of where the ball would be. We are in a place now where we could pop, which will fire the rotation of the body. The club's accelerating on its way down. You're letting these levers go, you're freewheeling, and you've got that all-important lag whilst freewheeling through impact. So this is an important element. It's essential for allowing the club to swing freely. Put the trail hand on. Feel where you are now in relation to where the ball would be. Feel the tensioning that's happening naturally just as a result of you changing direction with your body movement, with the shift, with the drop. So just by changing the direction, you're moving your body in opposition to where the club's swinging. The club jackknifes, loads the wrists, you're loaded into the ground, the body's loaded, it's tensioned, but it's not an active tension. It's just like throwing. It's a natural stretch that tensions the system. So actually creates more stability, because as the thing stretches, not only are you creating more recoil when you let it go, but the system is more stable whilst you're stretching it. So you don't lose your balance. By actually letting this thing go more freely with the jackknife, as long as I take the step, you're super stable and you can then spring. And there's no detriment in terms of dynamic balance. This is actually enabling you to use your dynamic balance for a more optimal pivoting action, i.e. rotation of the body, which just fires these levers. This is going to be awesome with the driver, especially when the ball's further forward. You've got more time. You can actually push back. And if you watch the videos, you're going to know about the drop and pop and the lead side push off and the rotation of the body. You're going to know about these things using the slingshot. All these things are going to happen, or are going to be allowed to happen, because you're allowing the levers to react to you, i.e. the arm being the primary lever and the club being the secondary lever. So we're allowing the primary lever to swing, which is the lead arm. The secondary lever, the club, is just reacting freely. But as soon as we start to take that step forward and with intent drop into the ground and stop, allow this to react. Notice the jackknife effect. It's a naturally loaded system, ready to spring. And that's key. We're just priming the body for these natural responses. And the jackknife action of the levers is going to allow the body to function. It's going to allow you to drop into the floor, i.e. increase the pressure into your lead side in the right way to push off and fire those levers, because the levers are already reacting to you in a naturally tensioned way, not artificially. It's a more passive tensioning, and you're not going to experience things like this because your body, when you push off, is going to rotate, and that's going to delay this action you're seeing with the wrists, because the club's going to be trailing for longer and longer and longer. And as you become more accustomed to this and allow it to happen, you're going to embrace that later feeling, because the body's so much further ahead of the levers. You're just going to start to allow this thing to catch up with you later and later and later. And that's when you start to see more of this. That's when you start to get that compression. But you've got to use the jackknife.